is going on, guys? Matt Downs with Daily Grind Fantasy Sports to help give you the edge for this MMA 12 fight slate on DraftKings. Cannot wait to break it down. If you guys are brand new to this channel, we provide both free and paid content for all daily fantasy sports across all sports. If you could please show your support by hitting that subscribe button, smashing that like button, also hitting that notification bell for all of our future MMA content. If you would like to know more about becoming a better DFS player and taking down that big GPP, head over to www.patreon.com/DGFantasy for more information. On Patreon, we give advanced cheat sheets for all DFS sports on DraftKings. These cheat sheets include updated projections, ownership, and our overall favorite plays from slate to slate. We take it a step further by teaching you how to play fantasy sports like a shark, by showing you where the best leverage spots are to put you in the best spots to take down tourneys. Also included is our private Discord chat where you get to talk over the slate with everyone, including our coaches, to help build your lineups. And now let's finally go ahead and dive right into this MMA 12 fight slate here with Kevin as always. Kevin, you ready to break down last week and then go through this new slate?
Yes, sir. So last fight night was, or last week was a fight night, Reyes versus Prochazka. So let's recap that real quick. This night kind of sucked, Matt, from a fighting and spectator standpoint. I'd say a lot of things went as expected in terms of winners and kind of, I guess, the pace of the fight or how they played out. But the amount of decisions and just kind of some of the weirder judging made it a pretty crappy night for a lot of spectators and DFS fans alike. Going through the fights, first fight we had as a live fight, and it was actually a pretty high octane one that didn't end in a finish though, with Felipe winning. Next fight was a lower octane one with the favorite in Andreas winning. Didn't impress or live up to the finish chance, that's for sure, for that one, which kind of sucked a little bit, had a little bit of him. I said Loma should win, but not clear her price point, and that's exactly what happened. Though I am curious, Matt, did Loma, Luke Boonme, look, I can't say with a lot. Absolute child. Did she make the optimal?
She did not. And I was actually going to bring that up because $9,400. Yeah, there was some upsets. There were some really good 8K range people, which we usually talk about. And then Merab scored well at 9,000. So that definitely made the optimal.
I was a little bit like when the way the fights were playing out, I was like, dude, she might make the optimal. Just how terrible everyone's doing. What'd she score? Like,
she scored 91. So I mean, it wasn't terrible, but again, for her price tag, yeah, I mean, you're going to need a lot more.
Again, there were so many bad scores. I was like, oh crap, like even 9,400. But yeah, so that was good. Called that one, and it is what it is. Luana was the next one. One is the underdog, which was cool. I had ended up with a little bit of her towards the end of making my lineups. Kamaka versus Brown was pretty controversial. I know a lot of people in the Discord and a lot of people I saw were raging, thinking Kai won. He had a 30-27 from one of the judges. Like I said, we were judging that night, but TJ got the nod. I had Kamaka in my cash lines, which sucked a little bit. I don't really know. To be honest, I did not watch that fight, so I can't fully say my opinion on it, but I know a lot of people were controversial on that one. Next fight was a dumpster fire. A legal up kick ending the fight in the first round. Marcos, I said she was a trash bag idiot, and I stand by it. And just exemplifying the fact she's a trash bag idiot is that up kick. Like, bro, like, you have one job. Like, don't do anything like there's so little rules in MMA, like compared to other sports. Like, okay, don't kick them in the nuts or metaphorical nuts.
Or don't need them in the head when they're down.
Yeah, don't need them in the head when they're down. Don't up kick when they're down. And everything else, like, is pretty, like, instinctual. Like, you're not going to go out there and just start clawing their face with your nails. Like, you know what I mean? Like, those are the only ones you really have to think about. And she's like, and her thing was like, it happens. And I'll say this. It was a stupid up kick, wicked stupid. It wasn't even close to being like anything but grounded. It was very dumb on her part. And she says this, and I do agree with Marcos. And Luana, on the other hand, she hit a LeBron flop. She needs an Oscar for that performance. It was ridiculous. She got hit with it and just was like, you'd think she got hit with a 50 cal. She just like dropped, just like dead on the ground. I was like, okay, that's a force. Like, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
But trash fight. Yeah, you should look it up. She looked up at the ceiling like she was seeing God. Like, her eyes were like, she was like,
well, she scored the highest on the card. So was that like that was like the best flop of all time, apparently?
Yeah, I mean, she got the dub for it. So what'd she score?
129. So that's very high.
Yeah, I mean, that's wild. But it is what it is. Merab did what he always does. We talked about that, Matt. He was a love lister and had him and did what he always does. It was a decision, but that's what you expect from him. What did he score, like 90s or something?
107.
Oh, nice.
He made the optimal. So
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, he did very well. So that's Marab. That's what he does. He takes people down, beats them up. Strickland looked good. I like Strickland. I said he's a good fighter, especially after his performance against Brendan Allen. I think he looked really good, Matt, but he scored like shit. He just did not.
It's terrible. Yeah.
What'd he score?
63.
Yeah, he was on his, you know what he was? He was on his back pedal a lot of counter strikes. And I think he looked very technically sound and got the win, but it was just one of those ones like it's trash. Trash scoring. Ion got robbed in a fight. I targeted a ton of both sides. I said you wanted the Jacoby Ion fight 100%, and that was like, what did Ion score, Matt?
Ion scored 89.
So that was in a draw. So he didn't get a win.
He did very well.
There. So you can basically treat that as a loss, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
Think about this is how I just for reference, think of someone scoring 89 in a loss.
Right. Yeah, that's insane.
Because that's how he scored. Like it's a loss. So that's crazy. He should have won. I don't care. Dude, he had friggin' like 8-9 takedowns or something. I was like, dude, I don't agree with that call. I just wanted someone to win because I had both sides. I didn't really care who. But
yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, draws are rare, but they'll kill you.
Mm-hmm.
So up until this point, Matt, and this is what I'm talking about this night, was just kind of a dumpster fire. Heading into the co-main, Matt, this is where we're at in this fight card. We had 8 decisions and a DQ.
Yeah, not fun.
One of those decisions being a draw.
Right.
So yeah, super fun night. Yeah, Giga saved the card a little. I had him in my cash lineups. I made a really weird cash lineup, and I actually didn't cash because it was so freaking close. It all came down to the main event.
Yeah.
But yeah, Giga, and I think that's what helped too. He finished in the first round, but it's 3 seconds outside that quick finish bonus, which hurt a little bit. But he probably scored, amazingly. I'm guessing.
Yeah,
right?
104. He made the optimal. Yep.
Yeah. So it would have been nice
if he could finish 3
seconds faster. But
yeah,
it is what it is. But the main event was actually a banger, Matt. Save this card to a degree. I would watch these two fight 100 times. I would love to just watch a rematch, and just see different outcomes. It was a really, really fun fight.
Mm-hmm.
Reyes, I said, was live, and I didn't really think his last 2 losses meant too much. And I stand by it. He looked awesome. Yuri looked friggin' awesome. It was just a fun fight. I became a Yuri fan over there. I wasn't a huge fan of him before that. I thought he was kind of a turd, and I still think he's a turd, but he's a weird dude. He's a wicked weird dude. But my goodness, his just unorthodox style of fighting, and he can just uncork that uppercut from anywhere. It's crazy. He is really talented, and I feel bad for Dominic Reyes, Matt, because he was there. He was there, and it was just. I don't know if you watched that fight, man. That'll be one as a fan. You should go watch that fight. It was really good. It was just, they were swinging leather. There were some bombs shot by Reyes, dropped them, made Prochaska go for a takedown. And then I think Reyes screwed up by trying to sit to that guillotine where he should have probably not pulled guard into the guillotine, just defended the takedown, keep beating his head in. But it was a really, really good fight. Honestly, I would watch it 1,000,000 times. I was impressed by both guys. I think even Reyes, though he's on a 3-loss skid, I think he could just keep going. Yeah. He's right there at this level. And Yuri showed he's probably ready to take on Jan. I think Jan puts the lights out on him just because if Dom can drop him, Yuri can delete him. You know what I mean? Jan hits so much harder. But Yuri's tough, man. Tough. It's one of those fighters. I know I'm getting long-winded here, but he's one of those fighters, like, it's hard to emulate that style in camp. Like, how do you bring in someone that moves like an alien? You know what I mean? It's like he has his own style. It's like you're not going to really be able to plan for him well. So it's interesting. I can't wait to see what Yuri keeps doing, though. He's a fun guy to watch.
Awesome.
So, yeah,
awesome.
We'll move on to this card. Admittedly, Matt, this is one of those ones. I think this is even exciting spectator-friendly card.
Yeah.
So it's not great. But I'll say this. From a DFS perspective, I think you got to think. DraftKings pays out. I don't care if it's my dog fighting my cat. DraftKings is going to pay out. You know what I mean? So, like, I don't care if there's 2 spectators watching it. You have to think that. So if this doesn't bring even casual, especially in MMA where there's a smaller player pool than other sports, there's always, casuals will, yes, you can take their money sometimes pretty easily, but it's also just flooding the field.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's going to be a good chance, especially with, like I said, even it's such a complex card too, where a lot of the sharks aren't going to know what to do either. So I think there's a very big opportunity from a DraftKings and DFS perspective here to make some money.
Awesome. I love to hear that.
From a spectator standpoint, I think you're good.
But, yeah.
There's a couple bangers, but I'll go through them. First fight being Christian Aguilera versus Carlson Harris. Great fight off the rip to target, Matt. I love this to start. I took pieces of Aguilera in both of his UFC fights, and I wasn't disappointed both times. One time, he was a punt against Anthony Ivy. and his he won by first round knockout, and which was great. In his second fight, I targeted the fight as a whole. I took him and his opponent, and Aguilera actually got subbed, so that was cool with that too. So he's one of those guys, like when he fights, I like to just target him in general in those fights because I know he's kind of a glass cannon guy where he's either going to finish or get finished. So always makes a good target. Harris, on the other hand, is a solid, well-rounded fighter making his UFC debut. The one fight that stands out in his career for me is a win over Michel Pereira back in the day, who I think I have a pretty high opinion of Michel Pereira. I think he's a good fighter. So I think that lets me know at least Carlston Harris is at a X amount level. Sometimes like if nobody, it's like it's hard to gauge. I know he's good enough to beat Michel Pereira, which puts him in a kind of a realm for me. So I like this one, man. I think Aguilera is a good dance partner. I don't think Harris is the best finisher in the world or the most high octane guy in the world, but I think it makes a good dance partner. And I would assume someone gets finished in the first fight here.
Awesome. So in terms of ownership, I always tend to give a benchmark percentage where anything above that benchmark is considered cash viable. This card is very skewed and it's very cut and dry, Kevin, from an ownership perspective, which means there's a lot of leverage potential here. I'll get to that once we cover all the fights. But starting here, the benchmark is going to be at 36.3% ownership. So as you can tell, pretty high. When we take a look at this fight in general, though, Harris ownership is 29.6% ownership, and Aguilera is at 18.7%, so both below that benchmark.
Yeah, and I think that's a great way to start. I mean, especially if it sucks if you go, I don't know, it's a double-edged sword. If you start your night off and you go 100% exposure on this fight, and it starts off awesome, and then you're like, wow, I have such leverage. I'm already great. You know what I mean? I'm already looking great. I already have a perfect start, especially if it's like, they score 112 and you're like, wow, I'm already in the optimal. You know what I mean? That's one piece down. If it doesn't, then you're going to be kicking yourself. So I don't know how much exposure you want here. If you want to ruin your night or make your night this early, but it is a great fight to target, especially with the ownership, what you just said.
Good. And leverage potential all the way around.
Yep.
All right.
Moving on, we got Park Jun-young versus Tafon Chukwuea. Chukwuea didn't have the best UFC debut I've ever seen, but I was impressed with his composure and how he looked in his first decision fight. He didn't gas as bad as I thought he might either. Usually, guys who hit that hard and that size, he's like a mini Ngannou, Matt. And he's also from Cameroon too, where Ngannou's from. So I think Park is a great next step for him. It was a smart matchmaking move by the UFC. People like this guy, Chukwuea, who are 5-0, you got to kind of gauge him. You know what I mean? You don't throw him. You give him a little bit of an easy fight first, like they gave him. Then you give him a test. You give him a C- and see can he beat a C-. You kind of because you got to remember, UFC is a business too. I think they want to take people like him and they want to groom him. You know what I mean? They do that so they don't give him oh, you beat him. Okay, here's Jacare Souza, and you're like, whoa. Relax. You know what I mean? And that's what they do with Greg Hardy because they realized they have a potential star and they kept giving him tin can after tin can after tin can and then finally gave him some real fighters. And I think Chukwuea is not Greg Hardy. I think he's a very good fighter. But I think this is a good test to kind of see what level he's at. Park is middle of the road UFC guy. He's a slight level up from his last opponent, which is great. I see a little more in depth of Chukwuea, see kind of how good this undefeated fighter really is. I think this fight as a whole is a good target. Park has never been knocked out in his 16 professional fights, which sucks, but Chukwuea hits super hard, so you never know. Park also hits fairly hard and has a solid ground game as well, so we really haven't seen that out of Tafon. So yeah, double green here, and this one is expected to end in a finish. I'm still very curious. I haven't seen like I said, a lot of Chukwuea, so I want to see him. I'm very curious. I don't know a lot about him still. It's interesting to me. The only thing keeping this one from my love list, Matt, is the volatility here. But gun to my head, I'm going to go with the favorite here.
Chukwuea, 37% ownership, so in that cash range. Very interesting there. And Park, 29.9, so just below. It looks like combined ownership-wise, this actually isn't that much exposed, but comparing it to the last one, it's a lot higher.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. People are buying that undefeated record. He's a draw. He's a draw. Like I said, and that's why he makes a good person for the UFC to groom a bit. He looks the part. He plays the part. He's a good fighter. He's undefeated. He has that aura. He's part of we have 3 Nigerian UFC champions right now. So it's it reminds me of when Russia started taking over a little bit in Dagestan. It's once you have a couple people in the top places, every time a new person comes up, perfect example, Khamzat. Even when Khamzat Chimaev was 6-0 making his UFC debut, everyone was like, watch this dude, because Khabib was crushing. You know what I mean? So it's kind of that ripple effect. So I think it's kind of interesting. And I get why people take him, though. He's a good fighter. Moving on, we have Ryan Benoit versus Zaruk Adashev. I can't believe we see Adashev again, Matt. Do you remember? This is the guy, I brought it up before. I'll bring it up every time I see him. He's the guy who was 3-1 heading into his UFC debut. And I was like, why is this guy 3-1 making his UFC debut? And I showed some obvious hesitation, as any sane person would, taking a 4-pro fight person who's making their UFC debut.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember someone in the comments was losing it. And it had to be like,
yep. I always remember this.
Him or something. And I was just like, bro, like they knew his whole life story. They were like, no,
talking about his yogurt flavor and everything.
College and this, he went to. I'm like, dude, relax. Like I have zero personally invested in this. Like, if the guy goes out and gets the fastest knockout in UFC history, good for him. And if he goes out and gets starched and taken to the grave, I don't care. Like, I don't.
It's funny because during your breakdown, you didn't say one thing about him being trash. You were just like, I just don't know. Like, he should lose this because of the reasons that are obvious. And the guy just flipped out, and we're like, what?
Like I said, I don't care if he kills the guy or goes out and trips and breaks his neck on the way to the cage. I don't care. Like, I don't know this guy, but I will say it did put a little smile on my face when he got starched in 30 seconds just for that one person, just being like, because I know they were super sad after that, and I like that. But yeah, anyway.
Well, he's also one of the lowest on the card, so just gonna throw that out there.
Well, he lost his next fight as well and didn't do too much. The numbers were, it was pretty bad. Who did he fight? Who did he fight his last fight?
Sorry, drinking water. That was Sue Madar.
Let me see. So yeah, he had first fight got knocked out in 30 seconds. Next fight, and Sue did jack shit as well. I remember he was like 9,200 or something, or very expensive. And we were like, he had a good knockout chance. We were like, let's take him. He won the fight with like 50 strikes, but Zaruk did even less. He had 28 strikes landed. It just doesn't do much.
Well, he has a combined total of 15 DraftKings points through his first 2 fights, so this should go well.
That's not what we're talking. So, I mean, I guess here's the thing. I mean, Benoit lost, he's pretty beatable dude. I don't know. This is tough. He has some solid UFC wins, one being a monster finish over Sergio Pettis, which is huge. That's damn impressive. I think Sergio's a good fighter. I don't know how this is going to go. It's going to be yellow for me, closer to red both sides. The pricing is good, but there is a lot of mid-range pricing on this card. You don't have to be picky. You're going to have a lot of options actually at mid-range pricing. And I don't know. This is 2 volatile trash bags, and it's not my favorite fight. But like, if you want to take one and hope, I mean, there's a plus 135 finish chance. Just from what I've seen and the experience, I'm assuming Benoit wins as a favorite. But again, I don't have a super high opinion of Benoit either, so I don't know.
Well, here you go, Kevin. This, honestly, I think this is the combined, like, ownership-wise, I think this is the lowest I've ever might have ever seen. This is combined ownership-wise, 22.3% ownership, 12.1% on Benoit, and is it Adashev?
Keeps calling
10.2%.
Yeah, I mean, that's ridiculously low, especially at mid-range pricing. I don't know.
Do you think whoever wins this has a chance to make the optimal, like, regardless of if it finishes or not? I mean, because of pricing.
Like, a lot of fights on this card that, like, I don't expect to make the optimal, but I will say there are some ones that are like more lined up and obvious too. But there's just a lot. It's 2 guy fights with a plus 135 finish chance. I mean, it's 2 guy fighters with a plus 135 at mid-range pricing. Of course, it has a chance, and that's the only reason it's in yellow. Before looking at the names, just looking at the price and finish chance, if I didn't put it as yellow, I'm not doing my job.
Right.
But that is the literal only. This is as bad as it gets after that. Does that make sense?
Right. Yep. Makes perfect sense. I'm not going to hate you for making this yellow. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So closer to red, though. Like I said, I like to give it, sometimes it's yellow, green, sometimes it's orange. This is more orange. Moving on, we got Klein versus Mike Trizano. I hate Klein. I hate him because I love him. He's a killer, and I want to get up.
It reminds me of my girlfriend, but anyway, good.
Hate because you love her, exactly. Yeah. So I want to get up for him. And but that's just so much money. 9,400 is brutal. I don't know what to do here, honestly, Matt. He's definitely green. I like him compared to some other pay-up options. It's just, honestly, it's going to be one of those times. It all depends on how everyone else does. I think he should knock Trizano out, gun to my head. It just matters when he knocks him out and the volume up until that point to hit 9,400. Like, Klein can knock out anybody. He's got ridiculous power, but I don't know. That's tough. And I also do think, though, Trizano is a yellow for me at his price. I think he's a good fighter. I really only like him for his talent and his pricing. I think he's a good fighter who's cheap. I don't think he's going to score super well either way, but you never know. At 6,800, if you win, that might just lock you in for optimal. I mean, his last two fights, Matt, he had 51 sig strikes and 42 sig strikes. So he does score like trash, but
Yeah, it does look like it.
But he is a good winner. So
right.
It's tough.
I think $6,800 is very, very cheap. It's going to be so tough if he somehow pulls this off. Klein, though, at 38.6% ownership, that is the third highest on the card, Kevin.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yep, and then, sorry, I just lost my place. Trizano at 8.9. So I think that's the low. Yeah, that's the lowest on the card.
That makes sense. Yeah, and I don't necessarily. I think Trizano has a definition puncher's chance. I think he's a good fighter. I just think Klein's. It's a tall task for him. I get it. I'm not saying I necessarily am going to be like, yo, Trizano has a real shot, like take 33% of them. But
right.
if you want to get contrarian, it's a weird card. Yep. You never know.
Makes sense for me.
Yeah. Moving on. What's Klein at? 38%?
38. Yep.
Cool. Interesting. So next we have Phil Hawes versus Kyle Daukaus. I thought at first, I did this last time too, I thought it was Chris Daukaus' brother when I first saw it. But this is a GPP love lister for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Don't need to get cute here, Matt. We all know Hawes has crazy power, can be finished. Almost was in his last fight versus Imavov, but came back and won. I do think this stylistically, he puts together some good wrestling too, which is nice to see. But Daukaus has good grappling, so I think it's a good dance partner for him. Where I think someone gets finished here. It has a -205 finish chance at super mid-range pricing, and I get why. I mean, I think it's again, don't need to get cute here either. Phil's probably going to knock him out.
Yeah, I love this.
So it's it's pretty obvious. Sharp money is on the prior though. I definitely think Daukaus probably puts him to sleep with a submission.
Well, here you go. Then you love to hear this. So in terms of ownership, this is the first time I've seen this in a while. It's a near even line, plus 117. It's not the worst. It's 46% chance for Dawes. So it's 54-46. You can pretty much consider that a toss-up, I would say, in Vegas's books. But the ownership is so skewed on the $7,900 Hawes, 36.3, comparing him to Daukaus, 23.9. That's like a significant drop-off. And I guess that's where people are going for their cash builds. But there's only a $400 difference, Kevin. I mean, I love that. I love taking the favorite for leverage anytime I can. That's amazing.
Sorry,
that's great leverage.
Hawes is 36, is that what you said?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Would you say Hawes is 36?
Hawes is 36, yeah. And then Daukaus is 23.9. So that's a pretty significant difference there.
I think Daukaus lost to Brendan Allen in his UFC debut, but then he beat Stoltzfus after that. And I mean, I don't know. That's interesting to me because Brendan Allen's very good. And that was his only loss in his professional career. And I think Brendan Allen better. Personally, I think he's a better fighter than Phil Hawes. I think Phil Hawes is good. And I get Phil Hawes is 2-0 in the UFC, won his Contender Series fight. It's just tough. I would really probably split my ownership. I'm probably going to go 100% on this one.
Yeah.
And then split my ownership.
Yeah, the ownership in general is still low, 36.3. That is the benchmark there for Hawes. That's the lowest out of the top six ownership. And then when you compare that to Daukaus, 23.9, combined ownership wise, not even close to 100. So even if you go 100% exposed, I'm pretty confident this will be in the optimal. Yeah,
this has a really good chance. I mean, it has the second highest finish chance on the card.
Yeah.
Second highest finish chance. And like I said, it makes sense. They line up really well against each other. One hand washes the other. So I definitely like it.
Awesome.
Moving on, we have Ben Rothwell. Ben Rothwell is just fat trash. I hate him. I always have hated him. He's just weird.
Things my mom have said to me. All right, go ahead.
Same. He's just man. Oh, I hate Ben Rothwell. He's cringy ass, weird, fat ass mayonnaise. He has a mayonnaise body, and I just don't like it.
Okay, geez, take it easy. Sorry. He has a family.
He's so cringy. He's so he's just awkward, and I hate him. But he's good at fighting. Very good. I'm objective here, Matt. I'm not going to let my hatred for him change my opinion. Okay. He's good fighting and very good at finishing. Leans is good at finishing, but also good at getting knocked out. So I don't know. This is a heavyweight fight, Matt, at great pricing. And usually I'd get up for this one. I'd be more excited. There's no lack of awesome pricing on this card, though. As I mentioned, it's a lot of good mid-range pricing. It's kind of wild, actually, how much there is. But Rothwell isn't as good as he used to be. He's still very tough. He's so tough to put away. He's got a granite chin. And Leans has kind of not been great in the UFC. So I don't know. This one's yellow for me, Matt. A little closer to green as This one always is just going to be a split second away from someone getting starched. It's two hard-hitting heavyweights, but this should tell you, Matt, this does have a plus 125 finish chance between two giant heavyweights who knock people out. And there's a reason for it. Ben Rothwell can, he's hard to put away. He slows paces down. He hasn't really been finishing people like he used to. I could see this ending. If this ends in a decision, Matt, I think it's going to be, this is one of those things. If it ends in a knockout, obviously this pricing, very good chance for optimal.
Right.
If it ends in a decision, I
no scoring.
Really the fact there's no way it makes optimal.
Right.
There's no way it's not going to be horribly scoring.
Right.
Unless someone randomly puts down a takedown clinic or something, but it puts on a takedown clinic. I don't think it's going to happen.
And that explains the ownership. 19.7% on Rothwell, and is it leans or lens? Leans?
Yep.
Leans. 9.5% ownership. So, like, combined ownership-wise, that's second lowest on the card, and it's because of the pricing. It's a toss-up, and for all the reasons that you just said, for cash, nobody's touching that. Nobody.
Okay.
So, out of the realm of cash, I'd say for GBP, maybe increase your exposure a little bit. I mean, like you said, if this ends in a knockout, which, again, has some chance, definitely could make the optimal there.
Yeah. No, I see that. I totally see that. It's just like I said, it's not going to take much at that price, and just with a knockout, even if it's like a second rounder or something, there's a good chance.
I spent half the breakdown that you just did looking at pictures of Ben Rothwell on the screen, and I'm definitely convinced this guy's going to knock him out. So
yeah, it's
I see what you mean.
Post-fight interview, how awkward and cringy he is, and just like he tries to be like funny and cool, and he's just like this fat, awkward like
dad.
Dad's a forgiving term. Anyway, moving on, we got Amanda Hebus versus Angela Hill. Amanda Hebus is a tough fighter and a good grappler, but coming off a brutal knockout loss. She has showed some woes on her feet before, and Angela definitely has some good striking. So, this is a good matchup for Angela Hill. I still think Amanda is live in this one for her pace and finish ability. I do think Hill is live. Like I said, she's a good kickboxer, good kickboxing background. I'll mark it yellow again here, Matt. I think it's a fight with somewhat mid-range pricing that has a lot of volatility. This one wouldn't be surprising to me if it made optimal somehow.
Okay.
I think you could take some pieces to this one, especially as I'm guessing the ownership will be quite low, Matt. It might be sneaky.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. Reba's at 30.1% and then Hill at 14.9%. So everything that you just said, spot on. Leverage potential there.
I think Hill's like good. It's weird. I do and don't. I have a weird opinion of her. Like, I think she's kind of like, I don't know. I don't think she's a champion. She's like a worst version and a girl version of Donald Cerrone. Like, she's worse. Okay. She's not as successful as him, but she's kind of like the girl version of him. Like, where like
you can go out and pretty much beat anybody.
Yeah, exactly. She has the skill set to put it on anybody, especially with her kickboxing. So, right. Yeah, she's had some really impressive fights in her career.
Yeah.
She's had some terrible ones, but that's good. That's volatility. So I definitely think she could win. I would probably overexpose here.
Awesome.
In a weird way.
Yeah. Here. I mean, the other shit makes sense. They're underexposed right now.
100%. Moving on, we got Carlos Diego Ferreira versus Gregor Gillespie. This is a brutal fight to call, Matt. This is actually probably my personally as a fan favorite fight on the card.
Okay.
I'm a big Gregor Gillespie guy. I've been watching him wrestle since I was in high school. He's a 4-time All-American, very, very good wrestler. Has hands and serious submissions. I think he is very elite, and his only blemish is his last fight was a KO loss to Kevin Lee. That doesn't bother me as much as the fact that was about a year and a half ago, slowly approaching 2 years, where Kevin Lee hit him with a bomb of a head kick. So it was a devastating head kick, and he hasn't been in the octagon since. And it's been, again, a good amount of time off. I don't like that. It just doesn't, sit well with me. That being said, again, you don't know. Some people bounce back. That's his first loss. His first loss was a knockout loss, a brutal one where he got head kicked in the next dimension, and he's been out the game for a while. So it's just like, it's not my favorite thing in the world. And I was like hoping he'd have a good bounce back, but I was like, why did it have to be Ferreira? Like, right. Ferreira is a truck, bro. He's a motherfucker. He has he's lost to 2 men in his 20-fight professional career, and that's Benel Dariush and Dustin Poirier. So it's like, Ferreira's tough. I think Ferreira, they're almost like, I love Gillespie. I'm a big Gillespie guy. I've won a lot of money taking Gillespie. Like, I know how tough he is. I remember it's one of my like little leverage plays. One of my first DraftKings contests ever, Matt.
Holy cow!
For MMA.
He has scored so well in his previous fights.
You see his first fight ever on there?
Which do you know who that was against?
No, I don't. I can't really remember. But that was the first time I think I played DFS MMA, and I took him. He was so cheap because no one knew him, and I was like, dude, he is going to, like, I knew his elite.
He was probably an underdog then, right?
Oh or he was really cheap either way. And I was like, he's going to destroy, and he did destroy. And I was like, yep, easy win. But yeah, he's so tough, and but I don't know, man. Dustin, not Dustin Porter. Diego Ferreira is tough. I mean, he's beaten some good guys. He smoked Anthony Pettis. I mean, I think Ferreira, here's the thing. Gregor will score higher and better in a win, but with the pricing, it doesn't matter because if Ferreira wins,
exactly.
Whatever. I mean, this is a low-key banger. There's 2 top 15 guys at the weight, and this is a double green for sure.
Well, the ownership is definitely not saying it's low key at all. It's high key a banger. So, second highest owned guy in the card there with Gillespie, and Ferreira is at 24.5. So definitely a lot of leverage potential there for all the reasons you just said.
Yeah, I can't believe that. That's crazy. Yeah, Gillespie's a stud. That's just crazy to me that he's that high. Owned. People aren't scared of that. It's almost like they're the opposite of. They should be more shook of what I'm talking about. I mean, I'm probably the biggest. Like I say, he's my favorite fighter on the card.
You'd be biased over everybody, right?
Yeah, it's still scary to me. Got to be objective. Moving on, we have, but that's interesting. That's very interesting. I still think it's double green. Moving on, we got Maurice Green versus Marcos Rogerio de Lima. Beautiful fight to target here for both sides, Matt. This is the heavyweight banger you want.
Okay.
Guys line up perfectly against each other too. Rogerio de Lima.
Back up. You said this is the one you want to target, right? Okay, you're gonna be mind blown then. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm very curious. This people are weird, man. People are weird. Rogerio de Lima, he has a comically bad ground game, but has hands like you read about, and will, gun in my head, put Maurice Green to sleep. Maurice Green, has a huge advantage on the ground. He's huge too as a human. He's 6'7", 6'8", something like that. He's a monster individual. I just think this fight makes so much sense. Rogerio de Lima gets finished by subs every time he loses, basically, but he knocks people out cold. And Maurice Green absolutely can be knocked out cold. This is a minus 350 finish chance. It's just a good lineup. And we've seen Maurice Green, break out that ground game. He doesn't think he's a real chance. Who do you do that against? Was it Gian Vellante, or what happened when he fought? And then he fought Greg Hardy. What happened when he fought Greg Hardy? Do you have Greg Hardy? Did he get knocked out by Greg Hardy?
He did. Yep.
Okay, cool. So yeah, like I'm saying, he either subs people, gets knocked out. It's good. This is great. I can't promise an amazing pace here, Matt. So again, you do want a first round finish. You don't want a second round, third round finish. And you definitely don't want a decision, but I'll be damned if this fight doesn't end in a finish at some point.
Yeah. So. All right, buckle up. De Lima, 29.5% ownership, Green 16.
Dummies. Stupid dummies. Take it. Hit it. Yeah. Hit it hard. Overexposed.
Like 100%? Like that overexposed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, yeah. Like, again, it could end. I feel good about ending in a finish. It could be like, my biggest nightmare is like, I don't know, Green puts it on him for a round, or Rogerio puts it on him for a round, and even Green is the underdog. If he just gets a crap beat out of him and then catches a second or third round sub, it still might not be enough. But this ends in a finish. I don't see how it doesn't end in a finish.
Real quick, not to jump too far ahead, I'm trying to think of like a reason why he would be so low owned. I'm going to compare him to Klein, Rodriguez, and Neal in that same price range, are all above 9K. Do those make more sense at their price points? Yes or no?
Klein,
yeah,
has a less finish chance,
right?
Probably a better win chance,
okay,
but it's $300 more. So it'll be harder for him to A, clear his price point, and B, fit in other good fighters. $300 is enough to, that's the difference between a $7,100 fighter who has maybe a shot, and then like that Angela Hill at 74, who I think has a real shot.
Right.
And then who was the other one?
Rodriguez. Sorry, Marina Rodriguez. Do you know what? We won't jump too. Let's talk about it.
There's a lot of pay up options here, Matt.
Yeah.
Like with Klein, Gillespie's kind of close to pay up, 89. And then we got out of the last 4 fights here, we got 3 over 9.
I'm just trying to think from a casual perspective. Even that doesn't make sense. Like, I'm comparing them, and it's like, well, the finish chance is higher. Like the win percentage isn't that bad. Like, what's going on? Where are we getting this wrong?
I was gonna say, if people had a high opinion of Green, or like thinks he's gonna sub him, I get that, but like, why don't you have more Green then?
Right.
Like, I don't get that.
Right. It's just like overall it's low. So
yeah, it makes absolutely no sense to me. So, but yeah, moving on, we got Neal Magny versus Jeff Neal. Another fight where I believe in the ability of both fighters. I think they're good fighters, Matt. I think Magny is a good fighter, but I'll probably yellow him. I think he has a chance at 7,200. I really do. He's a super talented guy and a good winner. That being said, he's a pretty average scorer, mostly due to the fact he straight up can't finish. He does okay with his volume. I'll say the non-significant strike scoring change this year helps him a little, as he's more of a point fighter than I would say than a strong significant strike heavy hitter. But I wouldn't overexpose there. Like I said, he still probably won't get a finish, but 7,200, he might not need it. Jeff Neal, different kind of fighter. He goes for the kill, heavy. I'm impressed with his skill set. He lost a tough decision to Stephen Thompson recently, but he was never really winning that fight. But Thompson's a machine and a bad matchup for anyone, especially on their feet. I think Jeff is a little greener, though. I do think you want to finish from him to be sure, though. And two talented guys here. I'm curious to see what the ownership looks like here, Matt.
Neal, 30.7, Magny, 15.4. So again, pretty low.
Yeah, that's a tough one, Matt. It's a dead even finish chance. Like I said, I think Neal finishes him or Magny wins a decision, or Neal wins a decision. I'm not saying Neal can't win a decision, but I don't think Magny puts him away. That's the only possibility I really don't think happens.
Right.
But it's gonna be one of those ones. It's annoying. It could make optimal. It could not. It could. I'm assuming the winner here scores okay. You know what I mean? Pretty good. Like I'm assuming like 80 to 90 points is kind of that floor region. But will it be enough? You know what I mean?
Right.
Especially for Neal at 9K. It's tough. I don't know. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
Sounds like a yellow from you. That's what it sounds. Yeah.
It's yellow. Like I said, Magny's yellow. Jeff Neal is like green, but a little closer to yellow too. They're both pretty yellow green.
Okay. All right.
I don't hate it. Don't love it. They're both talented. It almost makes it bad. Moving on, we have a weird fight. Simply a very weird fight, and even weirder that it's a co-main. Pop quiz, Matt. What number UFC fight will this be for Donald Cerrone? UFC fight.
Well, let's just put it this way. I put up the game log, and there's a scroll tab, and I just keep scrolling. So, is this outrageous to say 42?
That's yes.
Okay.
But you're not that far off.
Okay.
It's still outrageous, but it's not that far off. This is fight 37.
Okay, so I was actually pretty close.
No, you were. It's still outrageous. 37 is just like if you have 10 fights in the UFC, like that's a person, that's a businessman.
Oh yeah.
Spend his time. 37 is a joke. Not to mention he had like 8 or 10 fights or something in the WEC before that, which essentially was the same competition before the UFC swallowed him up and took over Strikeforce as well. But it's ridiculous. I mean, that's basically 45 what I would consider UFC level fights, and that's just stupid, man. The toll that must take on your body fighting that high of a level that many times, I don't even know what to say. But Cerrone is definitely on the decline. There's no debating that. I love Cerrone. He was one of my favorite fighters of all time at a point, and he still is. I shouldn't say he isn't anymore.
Right.
He's still a top 15 guy in the world, despite his fairly long losing streak. He's again fought some killers. The only person I'd say where he didn't fight a killer and could have done better was his last fight against, who was it, Nico Price, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Could have done better. But who was this? It shows us 4 losses before that. Who was that?
You want me to name him? Yes. Sorry. Yeah, I couldn't hear you. Gaethje.
That doesn't count.
Ferguson.
Doesn't count. Ferguson.
McGregor.
Doesn't count. It's McGregor.
Pettis.
Pettis is still very good. You know what I mean? It's not the other 3, but he's very good. Like that's ridiculous. That's a hit list. So that's what I'm saying. Like
he scored 0 against McGregor. He didn't get a shot in. Holy snap! I didn't know that.
I never thought of it, but I guess it makes sense. I don't think we had the non-sig scoring back then. So maybe if he tagged him with something, they it wouldn't count. And that's when McGregor got a body lock right away.
Yeah.
Dropped those shoulders.
Yeah.
And kicked him to the next dimension. So yeah. That's tough. But it's interesting. This is a weird one, Matt. Could be a sneaky optimal. I think it's going to be a slower paced fight. I mean, Cerrone has amazing jiu-jitsu, amazing Muay Thai. He could get the finish. He's beaten a lot of better people than Morono, I'll tell you that. But that was a lot earlier in his career. There's a lot of questions though. Is he washed completely? Is Morono going to beat him? I don't know. Is Cerrone still better than Morono? I don't know. Fights like these are the reason these fights just give me diabetes, Matt. I hate it. It's just like it ruins my day. I don't know what to say. It's just I'm not a huge fan favorite of this fight. I mean, I love, like I said, I love Cerrone, but I don't like this fight, and I don't know. It's volatility.
Yeah,
I mean, good or bad, depending on how you like it.
Everybody's avoiding it. Everybody. Cerrone's 31.8%. Morono at 12.
Yeah, that's ridiculously low for a Cerrone fight. He's a huge fan favorite. All the casuals love him, and I do too. But it's I kind of.
What's the finish chance on this?
Plus 135. Let's see. Plus 135.
Okay, so it's still not that bad. Okay,
not bad. Like I said, it's like absolutely can make optimal. It could be like Cerrone wins, scores 82 points, Morono wins and scores 90 points or something. You know, it's like, it's just, I don't know. I don't love it. It's one of those ones I wish just wasn't like there almost from a DFS perspective. But yeah, moving on. We have, you good?
Yeah, I was just about to say the ownership is actually mind-boggling for this next one.
For this next one?
Yeah.
Like high or low?
High.
Curious. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I get it. I mean, I'll tell you right now, Matt, in a, not to move too far ahead here, but in a cash games standpoint, I am going to say this is stackable.
Yes, I agree. Just looking at ownership.
Just by the ownership.
I don't have to know anything else.
You're like, I don't know what's happening, and yes, I love it. Sorry, I'm just cleaning up my sheet here.
You're
so
good.
I can read a little better. So yeah, it's interesting. I mean, not this. I'll be honest, Matt. This has to be my least favorite main event in a long time. You know, it's just not a great fight when, especially, but just like Rodriguez is good. She's an up and comer. Watterson doesn't do much for me. She just is just one of those mid-range fighters. It's just mid-range fighters that are in a main event never do much for me. You know what I mean? Like it just doesn't, like, she's good, she's talented, and I think she can win.
Right.
But and I guess Rodriguez is going to be a good test for her to see if she can like keep like transcending and being like, you know, that next level fighter. And maybe she's the next thing in the women's division, which would be cool. But yeah, or this specific women's division rather. But yeah, this card had Dillashaw versus Sandhagen, which I guess that's part of the reason too. That's a big drop off for me. Seeing Dillashaw come back after his giant hiatus for EPOs was just, I don't know how the hell we ended up here after that. You know what I mean? But Watterson, you know, I think she has a chance in this fight. Honestly, I think she has a real good chance.
Yeah,
I think,
Vegas is giving her a real chance.
She's a good fighter. I shouldn't say she's not a good fighter. I just don't think she's like a super, you know, she's not one of these people that I get up for.
She shouldn't be in the main event is what you're saying.
Yeah, she shouldn't be a main event fighter. And if so, it's just, you know, I don't know. But she has solid striking and jiu-jitsu when it gets there. That said, Watterson's takedowns are awful. Did you say this? And this is another reason too. Like, just as a whole fighter, complete fighter. Like when she fought Angela Hillmap, she was 1 for 18 for takedowns. Like 1 for 18. I've never seen anything like that. Like, you got to think you trip and fall and get 2. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Send her to one of my wrestling clubs, bro. Like, I'll help her out. I mean, she needs it. Like, this is ridiculous. Though I might fall in love. She's absolutely.
I was about to say, sign me up for that when you do that.
Michelle Watterson's a stud, but she's you know, is a good round. She's a good 5-round fighter as well. I think she has a good pace to her, very good shape, very good cardio, brings it every time. I think this fight will be green for me. Rodriguez will be green too, as she has been burying everyone. Like I said, she's a very talented fighter. She could score fairly high in a finish or a decision. I think that, like I said, there's a good cash option both sides.
Yeah.
I mean, Michelle Watterson is a good dance partner. She's tough to put away. I think this is a stackable fight. And I think both are very live because, like I said, I think Watterson can win. And I think Rodriguez is, you know, a good fighter and in a 5-rounder. I just think this is, I would expect a decision. And I think that's actually what you want in a situation like this. I think you could just see a lot of regular, just, you know, non-sig strikes in this one.
Not to mention the pricing. Like Watterson at 7,000 seems almost criminal. Very, very low in a 5-rounder. Doesn't make any sense there. I will stick to this stance. I've said this in previous videos. I think the main event pricing needs to be inflated. I think it needs to be, because it almost makes like these price tags comical. Like, you already know these guys should make the optimal, and DraftKings makes it so easy for these guys to make it the optimal because of the pricing. So I just think, you know, $7,000 for Watterson. Rodriguez should probably be a little bit higher too. Bump them up, you know, $300 to $500 more, and then we're talking about debatably spreading out the ownership of these other fights. But it ran over. Yeah, it's definitely stackable in my opinion too. Completely agree with you. I think it's just very straightforward. Very straightforward.
Yeah, no, I think you're 100% right. They probably should, because just like when you look at other fights comparatively, like it's kind of like
you're forced to take this.
Yeah, you're forced, exactly, and that's not the way it should be. You shouldn't be forced into taking anything. But if you don't, I mean, it does create a good opportunity. I mean, like I said, one of the biggest nights we had in MMA, where that, you know, Patreon won almost 50 grand, was due to the fact he faded a main event. So it does allow you to get contrarian.
It does.
Is cool.
Yeah.
So
great point too. I'm saying from like a fan watching perspective, like, you know, half of these guys don't turn on their TVs until the last 5 fights. I'm one of them. I'll admit it, unless I'm playing DFS, like, I don't care, right? And I just feel like if they distributed the pricing like all throughout these fighters, it would make it a lot easier to watch, you know, all the way through.
I can agree more.
Yeah,
I can agree more.
Anyway, let's hear the final breakdowns. Let's take it home.
Yeah, so core fights, Matt, I had none. Like, actually, I didn't think there's anything that like sticks out to me where I want to put my stamp on it and my name behind it. I mean, if you're going to take one, I'm guessing Rodriguez. What was Rodriguez? Did you say the ownership?
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't think I did. I just said it was very high. Rodriguez is 42%. That's the highest, and Waterson's 37.5. So literally 5% less, and the fourth highest on the card.
Yeah, that's crazy. So yeah, that's super stackable. I think Waterson's a good option. Rodriguez probably you could throw in core if you want to. GPP plays, I like Harrison Aguilera, a solid -180 finish chance off the rip with good pricing. Aguilera usually creates good DFS outcomes, win or lose. But yeah, he's a good dance partner all around. Hawes versus Daukaus, great path to victory for both guys, and pricing is right where you want it. And you just told me it's super underexposed, which is great. We want to overexpose there for that reason.
Yes, sir.
Rogerio de Lima, another person that you just said is just carrying not
doesn't
enough
make any
ownership.
sense. Yep.
Strong pay up option there. He should put the lights out, and then if he doesn't, punts. Maurice Green, same thing, underowned, and he can beat Rogerio de Lima with his grappling very easily. So
yeah, that would be your slate breaker fight right there, just in terms of ownership.
100%.
All right, just like that, it's over, guys. If you did enjoy this video, please do hit that subscription button, notification bell, of course, smash that like button for all of our future MMA content, guys. We'll be updating all of our ownership in the morning on our Patreon tool. $20 a month gives you access to all that and so much more. With all that being said, guys, have a great rest of your day. Let's cash.